city of Denver is moving closer to creating a potential flashpoint between local law enforcement and federal agents. Today, City Council advanced a proposed ordinance that would ban masked agents in the streets, a rule that would be enforced by local police. We start off tonight with our Angeline McCall on this. Angeline, the head of the local police union, spoke out concerned about how this is going to work.
Right, Kyle, this proposed ordinance will be moving forward. There were some concerns with much support as well from City Council, from the public specifically as well. And the majority of voices, were there in support, but we did hear from the president of the Denver Police Protection Association about some of his concerns. He said he's worried about local law enforcement arresting or citing federal agents who wear a mask or refuse to identify themselves. He added he's worried that trust would also erode for the types of joint operations they do with federal agencies like the FBI or DEA. He spoke to the committee this morning along with people who want to see this move forward.
Enforcement and how that's going to look is our major concern going forward. What will happen if an officer does take enforcement action and a federal agent then tries to arrest that officer for impeding their operation? What happens to them if they're charged with a crime?
This ordinance is a bare minimum to ensure safeguards that constitutional rights are respected and fear does not undermine public safety.
We've seen similar legislation in California already face legal challenges. A federal judge there blocked the state's law from going into effect because it discriminated against the federal government because the law only applied to federal officers. This proposed Denver ordinance is different because it applies to all local law enforcement, as well as state, local, and federal. And so the sponsors of this believe that it is enforceable, Kyle, but enforceable, legal, right? Like, what does this really look like on the ground? I mean, it seems like a real concern, right, of police officers arresting or citing federal agents.
And we know that the Trump administration has just flatly said that if there are local or state mask ordinances, they won't abide by them.
Yeah, DHS has already come out and said that they will not abide by this. And so, that leads another question of, if they're not going to abide by it, then we're going to see enforcement, or is this going to be more performative?
All right. Angeline McCall, thanks for staying on it for us. The House voted tonight to cancel President Trump's tariffs on Canada, Colorado's largest source of imports. Notably, Republican Congressman Jeff Hurd voted with Democrats to ditch Trump's tariffs. Republicans Gabe Evans and Jeff Crank voted to keep Trump's tariffs. President Trump immediately threatened the Republicans who defied him, writing, "Any Republican in the House or Senate that votes against tariffs will seriously suffer the consequences come election time, and that includes primaries." Hurd said his vote against the tariffs was about reclaiming Congress's traditional power to set trade policy and to help ag producers hit hard by tariffs in Colorado. This vote may prove symbolic in the end. It could be vetoed by the president if it were to pass the Republican-led Senate. The Trump administration has failed in its attempt to put members of Congress in prison, including Democratic Congressman Jason Crowe of Aurora. NBC News reports that federal prosecutors failed to convince a single grand juror of their case against Crowe and the others that they should be criminally charged for this video telling military service members that they have no duty to follow illegal orders. Crowe tells me this shows that the tide is turning against Trump's attempts to punish his enemies. And Crowe's attorneys have put the Justice Department on notice to end the retaliation or to face consequences. I spoke with Congressman Crowe for today's next conversation.
What's really important right now is we take names, we make lists, and we impose costs on people that have turned their back on the Constitution and the law, and we are prepared to do that.
You said that this isn't going to shut you up, but is it possible that this attempt to prosecute you and other members of Congress has actually had the intended effect that it will silence other critics of the president?
Well, I sure hope not, right? Donald Trump thinks that fear is contagious, and he's trying to send this message of fear to get people to shut up and to back down and to stop dissenting against power. What I believe, actually, is that courage is more contagious than fear. That if leaders stand up and they speak up and they don't allow themselves to be intimidated, that people will join with them. And
If President Trump attempted to use the military to seize ballots or otherwise gain control of elections, do you believe that that would be an obviously illegal order?
yeah, use of military at polling stations or interfere with our elections would be a violation of the law, and I will do everything to enforce the law and to prevent that from happening.
Congressman, your Republican colleagues in Congress have made it clear that they will follow any order from President Trump, and it does not appear that there is a lot of pushback within the executive branch that existed within his first term. What do you see as the functional firewalls at this point for the rule of law?
The American people, right? Listen, this is not the story about, corporate CEOs, universities, big law firms, people in positions of power and privilege bending the knee and cowing and buckling to Donald Trump, because when societies face crisis like we are in right now, there are always people in positions of power and influence who fail. This is going to be a story of the American people, everyday Americans, standing up and exercising their courage and their right and taking their country back. That's what this moment is going to be about.
Crowe has not pointed to a specific order by President Trump that he says that a service member should have disobeyed, but he does highlight some of Trump's musings that he says would be illegal if ever implemented. That's in our full conversation, which is on the next YouTube channel. Should note, we had a little audio issue there. That interview was not conducted by a creepy AI robot version of myself. Hope is at the center of a growing community in Weld County. Hope Springs is the name, a large development doing affordable housing differently. Our Evan Krugel shows us how a major cut in federal funding is slowing the project just as the first families move in.
Owning a house in Colorado was nothing more than a pipe dream for Cody and Michelle Pleisance.
This getting a large deposit, like a down payment for a house, seemed really far.
That changed in August when the Weld County family of 7 was selected by Habitat for Humanity for a home in the Hope Springs development.
It's a dream come true, honestly. It really is.
The goal is to build 40 homes every year on this 42-acre property on the south side of Greeley. Families pay just 30% of their income toward their mortgage. Grants and donors cover the rest.
To be able to potentially help 40 families a year achieve that goal of home ownership is life-changing, not just for them, but for the entire community.
But CEO Sherry Witt Brown says they're having to reevaluate their projections here after a federal grant they were approved for through Housing and Urban Development was reduced.
We had been awarded a grant of $1.3 million. That just got decreased to $290,000. And so it's heartbreaking for us, but it's far more heartbreaking for the families.
Sherry says they'll now only be able to build about 20 homes per year, a big hit for future families like the Pleisances, who say they're thriving now that they're out of a mobile home.
To have them growing up in a home compared to just one giant room, everybody yelling at each other, so much nicer.
Sherry says the hope is still here. The question is whether the funding will be.
To make up $1 million, that's a pretty significant amount.
Now, the goal was to finish that entire neighborhood by 2029. That timeline, unfortunately, may change if they can't make up that lost funding. Kyle.
And Evan, a big habitat development like that is not always what we think about when we think about Habitat for Humanity housing, which often is infill, right? One house, maybe 2 or 3 in a row. That's a full-blown neighborhood they're building.
Yeah, this is an entirely different concept. There's park spaces, there's a library, there's child care coverage. The goal is to bring all of these people together into a beautiful new neighborhood, a beautiful new community that they can thrive in, as opposed to that traditional one-off housing that we've seen in the past.
Right. Evan Krugel, thank you. So, the beauty of this program is that when we see a problem, a challenge, we don't just watch. I mean, not if we can do something about it. We cannot build every affordable house that they're going to need there in Weld County, but I bet you we can build one. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is going to support Greeley Weld Habitat for Humanity. The dollars that we raise are going to help build out the Hope Springs affordable housing community, one of the largest habitat builds in the American West. Not one-off houses here and there, but that whole village, child care center, parks, play spaces, a community where people are united in their dream of home ownership and their determination that they can pay off a mortgage if they just have a little help. That sudden loss of awarded federal funds means the plan to build 40 homes this year is going to be scaled back to 20, 22, 23, depending on what funding they can find. So that's where we come in. You've been reliably raising $50,000 or more each week for a nonprofit cause somewhere in Colorado, and that kind of money goes a long way toward adding one more home to this year's build list at Hope Springs. They told me recently, if we have the funding, we can build it. They said your money matters because that means another family. So let's help add another family to the neighborhood. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. We'll send you that link to donate. You have proven that even $5 helps, because 5 years of pooling $5 donations has raised $17 million for nonprofits in Colorado. I'll never ask you to give a loan, so I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. Almost 7,500 of you have signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info one time, you click your donation amount, and it's automatically split among all the nonprofits we feature. And we expect that to add almost $50,000 to each weekly campaign. Federal charges against Coloradans accused of ripping off Medicaid for millions of dollars.
I'm one of those that watched curling on the Olympics and thought I could do this and make it to the Olympics, and found out real quickly I can't.
A humbling lesson that even the easy-looking Olympic sports are still Olympic sports. Next. Two Coloradans are accused of spending millions of Medicaid dollars on themselves. The U.S. Attorney's Office indicted these folks who gave free rides to Medicaid patients and were reimbursed millions of dollars, except prosecutors think those rides were bogus. Our Marshall Zellinger takes us through newly unsealed indictments.
Medicaid offers free transportation for members who have no other way of getting to non-emergency medical appointments. It's called NEMT, non-emergency medical transportation. The ride is supposed to be to the closest Medicaid provider. Two Coloradans have been indicted by the U.S. Attorney's Office, accused of bilking Medicaid out of more than $4 million combined. The U.S. Attorney's Office indicted Wissam Yassin, who's accused of fraudulently billing Medicaid for $3.3 million in NEMT rides. Ashley Stevens was also indicted, accused of more than $1 million in fraud. From April 2023 to July 2023, the U.S. Attorney's Office believes Yassin submitted reimbursement for $2 million in rides under the business Sama Limo, rides that claim to be hundreds of miles long, rides that never happened for the patients listed, and rides that happened for at least one person who had already died. The indictment says the money was used to buy a home and furnish it, a BMW and Mercedes, jewelry, and cosmetic surgery. She is out on bond, and when we reached her by phone, she asked us not to call again. Stevens is accused of billing more than $1 million in rides for Armistead Twin Rides based in Montrose on the Western Slope. Rides for herself and family members, with very few having medical appointments. Rides for her husband, who was incarcerated on the dates provided. And rides that were 400 or more miles long. The indictment says her money was used for travel and a luxury vehicle. She is currently in prison at the Denver Women's Correctional Facility for multiple unrelated charges of bribery, forgery, and ID theft. So how did millions in fraud get by the State Department that manages Medicaid for Colorado? A spokesman for the Department of Healthcare Policy and Finance said this fraud was discovered 3 years ago, and now it is being prosecuted. For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.
Just last month, the state's Department of Healthcare and Policy and Financing estimated the state lost $25 million on fraudulent Medicaid rides. President Trump has targeted blue states with immigration enforcement over claims of Medicaid fraud. Let's bring in meteorologist Chris Bianchi. And Denver snow is somewhere, it's just not here.
Exactly. It's in Hawaii and North Carolina. That's right. These are cities, or places, I should say, because Mauna Kea is not really a city. That's a 13,000-foot volcano in Hawaii. But these are places that have more snow than Denver. Denver's picked up 13.4 inches of snow so far this season. Lowest winter-to-date snowfall in 115 years. Louisville, Kentucky, which averages only about 9 inches of snow season to date, 18.9. Boston, I put that there because Boston averages the same amount of snow as Denver does for this point of the season, and they picked up more than triple the amount of snow that Denver has. New Bern, North Carolina averages 1 inch of snow season to date. They've got more snow than Denver. Denver's not going to get any snow, but the mountains are. A little light snow right now, 4 to 10 inches for the near mountains, 6 to 15 inches for the Parks and the Elkheads. That's up by Steamboat. Seeing some of that light snow spreading on in as we speak. The northern central mountains getting a little light snow right now, and a little snow off to the south and west as well. That snow will pick up as we head later on through tonight and to tomorrow morning. That snow will be heaviest and steadiest early tomorrow morning, so you'll wake up to a few inches of snow here in the high country. Good news for skiers and snowboarders, bad news for travel. I would say tomorrow morning, the worst of the travel in the high country. A little leftover snow tomorrow, some rain showers. That's right, some rain showers in Denver, Colorado, a couple days before Valentine's Day. That's a little weird. This winter has all around been weird. We'll warm up and dry out this weekend with temperatures once again near 70 for us by Monday, and then it cools down with some more mountain snow for the middle of next week. So good news in the mountains, but in Denver, it stays dry and snow-free over the next few days.
Every 4 years, some odd little winter sports get their moment in the spotlight, like curling.
It's certainly more a unique sport. It's kind of a fringe one.
Denver's curlers have something to say about all the couch commentators convinced that they could hang with the pros. Next. Every 4 years, we remember that curling exists. It's an insult, really, to the folks who are sliding rocks on the regular at the Denver Curling Center.
I'm one of those that watched curling on the Olympics and thought I could do this and make it to the Olympics, and found out real quickly I can't, but just fell in love with the sport and the community. I don't think it's getting there.
12-6, it's going to be through. It's certainly more a unique sport. It's kind of a fringe one. Different curls depending on what line you're running the rock down.
I think it's kind of a little niche sport.
I mean, the objective is to deliver the rock from one end down 100 feet to a target area called the house. And you just want to be closer to the center of that house than any of your opponent's rock.
Shuffleboard on ice. A little bit of chess mixed in with strategy.
Looks okay. That worked.
If you have to give the sport a different name, what would you call it?
Rock smash, I don't know. What would you call it, Michelle?
What might I call it? Something with granite. I mean, granite's what the stones are made out of. I think that's very unique.
You know, every 4 years, everyone says that's their favorite Winter Olympic thing to watch. It's control up!
I love the energy that it generates every Olympics. Everyone gets excited about it. People that have never heard it before are, getting on our notification list saying, how do I get into this? Is this for me? Can I join a league? Can I just come out and throw rocks? I keep going back to community, but I think that's what it is.
Whew, thank you. The best community in the world, best people in the world. It's a great way to spend 2 hours at a time. So it sure is a lot of fun. Just can't keep me away.
Okay, good end, guys.
We're back with your feedback. Next. Didn't make it. It's close, though. It was close.
No cigar.
We're going to help a family move into a home with this week's Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign. Help to build out the Hope Springs community project of Greeley Weld Habitat for Humanity. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me and a bunch of others in giving to support their work. They're building homes for Coloradans who have income, who can pay a monthly mortgage if they just have some help. Federal funding cut means they're $1 million short of this year's plans. The 40 homes they hope to put in may become 20, but they can scale that up if they get more funding from the community. And that is where we come in. Kevin in Greeley writes, excellent. This is a worthwhile cause. Appreciate your support, Kevin. Jennifer says she was picking up the phone after Evan Krugel's story to suggest that we feature Habitat for Humanity in a future Word of Thanks campaign. And there it was. And then this, critical feedback via text. Hey, Kylie, put your wallet where your big mouth is. Well, friend, as I say every single week with Word of Thanks, I will never ask you to give if I don't give myself. I ask you if you give $5, I match the first 50 people who do that. But you have to understand the way this works. This is a community project, right? This isn't my deal. My $250 a week over the last 5-6 years has been a little drop in an ocean of donations that the community has raised. That's how we got to $17 million. But the fact is, every single week, I will be there with you if you are willing to give. See you next time.